Hello, and welcome to Based on a Book, the podcast apparently streaming from Shadyside this month. I'm Crystal, and I hate it here.
I'm Keri, and I've learned that at Shadyside Prom, we should keep our expectations as low as the survival rate.
And I'm Lindsey, and this movie let me down harder than Keri and Crystal did in our photo shoot.
That's right, we are back on Fear Street, and this time we're visiting for prom. Netflix just released their newest movie, the summer slasher inspired by R.L. Stine's Fear Street, Prom Queen. If you checked out our bonus episode last week, we watched the Netflix Fear Street trilogy and read the R.L. Stine Prom Queen book in preparation for watching this movie together for the first time. We read it, we watched it, and boy, do we have a lot to say. After reading the book and watching the original trilogy, we had some pretty high hopes. The book follows Lizzie McVeigh and the other Shadyside High Prom Queen nominees as they one by one are murdered and the anxiety grows. The Netflix Fear Street trilogy leads us through time to uncover the origins of a curse terrorizing Shadysiders across centuries. The newest Fear Street Prom Queen movie follows Lori Granger and the other 1988 senior prom court candidates. Although some elements of the movie line up with the book loosely, the character names, the sequence of events, the timeline, and ultimately the responsible party or parties are vastly different. And though this is set in Shadyside, and the curse is mentioned briefly at the beginning of the movie, as far as we can tell, it's not related to the Prom Queen movie. So that's where you find us scratching our heads. Ladies, if you would please, any non spoiler vibes or thoughts about the movie experience?
I think my intro kind of shows it all, to be honest.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, if you listen to our bonus episode, we had so many theories going into this one about the connections that they may or may not make with
Mm-hmm.
the trilogy. I think we kind of had this expectation that they weren't going to do a direct adaptation, but in more of a connection with this trilogy.
Right.
But unfortunately, that wasn't the case on either end. And that was really disappointing. I I don't know, the vibes were off, and I think you could really tell that a completely different person was
Mm-hmm.
involved in creating the movie.
Yeah.
And it just like those that trilogy really hit. The movies really hit,
Mm-hmm.
and this one just didn't hit the mark for me at all.
Lindsay, your thoughts?
I agree. And yeah, the movie let me down. I did read that the executive producer wanted this fourth installment to take place in the 1950s, and they wanted it centered around the milkman, which was Harry
Ooh.
Rooker. But it changed, and they decided they were going to do more of a direct adaptation of one of the books. And I think they should have just stuck with the original plan.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. And even though they like I said, it kind of lines up with the book a little bit, but it's not even, I wouldn't even consider it a direct adaptation of the Prom Queen book.
No.
About the only thing we have similar is like it's set in Shadyside, there's a prom, and there's a group of girls running for Prom Queen.
Yeah.
And the title.
And the title. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, even just like I mean, it's set in what, 1988, right?
Mhm.
And it I mean, we kind of talked about this when we were together. The music, like the trilogy, when we watched the trilogy, we discussed how just the vibes. It was just whenever
We
every set
felt
the
like we were in the
90s.
90s. We felt like we were in the 70s.
Yes, like just the vibes were on it with the music, the style, just the overall, even like the language used sometimes, even though sometimes
Mhm.
it would be a little bit off, but you would still get the gist of it. With this one being set, I mean, in the 80s is a very specific vibe. It
Mhm.
is very specific. And like when you're watching something set in the 80s. And this, like, you could have fooled me and told me that this was set current day.
Yeah,
You really could, because I mean, that being said, the style, like that style is coming back.
it
And,
is. But if it
for current
wasn't,
day, but
I you said it, while we were watching it, that this feels like it could be right now.
yeah.
And about the only thing that let us know it wasn't was that they weren't all holding cell phones.
Yeah,
But, like,
$100%.
we didn't see any of the, like, classic 80s, like, fast food restaurants or store or food logos or even, like, the cars or and so I feel like Shadyside Mall in 1994 was set like, we saw the mall. We saw stores in the mall that were very 90s shops. We didn't see that at all in this one in 1988.
Nope.
We didn't see even like a television set that would have been clearly a CRT, big tube television. We didn't see anything like that. It was
I
that
mean,
classic 80s couch that every grandma had. We didn't see any of those.
yeah. I mean, the hair was actually what really
It was all flat.
bothered me. The hair was so flat. Why was the hair so flat?
I just
Like, for prom too, like, this wasn't just, like, going to school every day.
no.
For prom, we're going all out for prom in the 80s.
And they all had flat hair.
And they all had completely flat hair, like, that was mind-boggling to me.
Mhm.
Flat hair and flat sleeves. I wanted some big poofy sleeves.
Yes.
Yeah, like, that, like, who was the stylist here? Like, that felt so wild to me
It
to see
just
that.
it was just not there.
No, it wasn't, and I mean, the music was okay, there was, like,
Mhm.
some good songs on there, and it was pretty decent, the soundtrack was okay, but I just felt like it could have been more iconic.
Yeah.
It really could have.
I
Like,
feel
we
like
could have had some more iconic songs on
they
there.
had an opportunity and they missed it hard.
Yeah, and
No neon
honestly,
colors, no, like
yeah, and, like, like, I felt immediately connected to characters when I first started, like, 1994.
Mhm.
And I felt no connection to these characters. There was no relationships established. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to have relationships established, but like even whenever we're introduced to certain backstories, there's
Which
nothing coming of it.
yeah.
Like there's nothing significant about it. So I don't know. It really bugged me. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree. But having said all that, we're gonna tell you even more about it with a whole bunch of spoilers. And because I'm hosting this episode about a scary movie, I'm taking a page from Lindsay's book, and my spoiler warning is also a content warning. We will be discussing bullying, teen pregnancy, sex, violence, gore, gruesome deaths, alcohol and drug use, and other adult themes. Please know yourself, proceed with caution. Your mental health is more important than you listening to this podcast. Although we do love you and we're glad that you're here, we'd rather you take care of yourself. So without further ado, let's get into those full spoilers and talk about Lori Granger walking into high school the day before prom and how we find out that she is running for prom queen against the wolf pack, who are like the it girls, the mean girls,
Mhm.
very similar to the group in the book that was like the group of girls. We find out that the wolf pack is I don't
It's
know.
like
This is another one of those that like I feel like the 80s mean girl is such a vibe and the 80s Mean Girl.
Yeah. I mean, I the another big difference between the book and the movie is that they had, like, a friendship
Mhm.
in the book. I mean, is it a friendship?
It was a toxic
It
friendship.
was a toxic friendship. There was still, like, something there, but
Mhm.
this in the movie, it was, like, classic mean girl vibes.
Yeah,
You know, there was, like, bullying, and they, like, just didn't like this girl,
pretty
and
much.
it was very tropey
It was very
for
tropey, you
high
know,
school prom.
Lori's, like, mom is a single mom. You know, all the other girls have, like, two-parent households. You know, they all have names like Tiffany and Linda and Debbie and, you know, they're
Nancy.
Nancy. They're all very,
Oh, no, it was
very
Tiffany. Nancy is the mom.
right.
Right.
Well, and they changed all the names from the book to the movie too, so it's definitely not. I don't know how you could call this more of a direct adaptation. Whoever said that that's what they were doing, you missed the
Mhm.
mark on a lot of
Well,
things.
like, I thought they
That's
were changing all the names because they were gonna be making connections.
I thought
Mhm.
so too. I was like, okay, this is where we're gonna connect. And about the only thing that did connect is that we find out that Tiffany's boyfriend, Tyler, his last name is Torres. And so
Yeah.
there may be a connection to Ryan Torres, who is the skull mask killer in 1994,
Mhm.
but we don't know.
Yeah, that's just, like, an assumption we're making because they have the same last name, but, like, nothing is really, like, made of it.
Right. And now, as Lori's walking in, first thing in the movie, she does say that like bad things happen in Shadyside, and we get like kind of a little montage of a thing that says like remember Camp Nightwing, and some graffiti that says Sarah Fear lives, and a
Mhm.
handful of little bits at the very beginning, kind of a little almost montagey
And we
of.
also saw, like, montage of very specific
Mhm.
people of stories that we don't know about yet.
Right.
Like, it was, like, of the grifter, and I can't remember of the other person that we saw
The
too.
not the Humpty Dumpty killer, but the kid with the
Barker,
mask.
Billy Barker, I think.
Yes, we
Yeah.
only saw
Mhm.
those 2 specific people, and I thought that was either meaning that we were about to see a connection to them within this movie we're about to see,
Mhm.
or I was thinking that might mean that those will be the next stories
Right.
that we might see in the future, possibly.
I mean, we can
But,
only hope.
like, who knows? Because they didn't do any type of connection in the movie,
Right.
which really sucked.
We find out that Lori's mom is Lori's father is dead. Lori's father was murdered. It's a little iffy on like at one point they were like stabbed him in the face, another point somebody said cut his throat, another point. So like it's a little
It's, like,
iffy on
rumored.
rumor, but he was killed. And the rumor is that Lori's mom is the one who did it, but she was cleared. We know it wasn't her. But the whole kind of mean girl clique talks about like, Grangers can't have anything nice. Her mom's a murderer. They just, it's very just mean girl bullying. It really, Lori is the one that is just constantly picked at. And her running for prom queen kind of has a handful of people who are like, no, the mean girls are the mean girls. This wolf pack is like, we're voting for Lori. They're quietly doing it. It's very hush hush. And of course, there's like one other girl running for prom queen that's not in the wolf pack, but she's like known to be the druggy, the easy girl, the one that even the administration is kind of like she's a troublemaker.
Yeah.
And so it's the day before prom. That night, everybody kind of goes home, goes about their business, but we get to see our first murder.
Mhm.
And of course, it's the easy girl whose name I can't remember. Christy? Christy.
Christy, yeah.
Christy.
Yeah. Stabbed in the kind
I
of the same
have
thing as, like,
a
Maya Hawke.
pretty much.
Yeah.
I have a whole list full of notes, but trying to keep track of everyone's names when they changed all the freaking names, you know?
Yeah.
So she kind of disappears in the night. Of course, we all know she's been murdered, but the rest of the school thinks that she's just, got high somewhere and didn't come back. They have some sort of weird prom queen practice, or like prom court practice, how, everybody's going to come up on stage and then we're going to announce the winner kind of thing. Almost like a little wedding rehearsal, but prom rehearsal is a little weird. And we get to see a little bit more of like the kid with the boom box and then the kid with the ponytail. And so we see a little bit
Not the
more.
ponytail. I really wanted to grab it to snip it off.
It was a really crappy ponytail,
It
too.
was so tiny. It's like this tiny little ponytail.
It was hilarious. And then we see like Lori goes home and her mom goes to work or whatever, and she's going to get ready for prom and she goes to prom. In the book, we have like 3 weeks of lead up time, I think. 3 or
Yeah.
4 weeks between the original, like the first murder of they found a body in the woods kind of thing, to the very end of the book where they discover the murderer. But in the movie, we literally we show up on the day before prom and then we go to prom the
Yeah. The
next day.
prom is literally one page in the book.
Yeah.
At the very end, after everything that's happened.
So throughout prom, Lori continues to be bullied, but one by one, the prom queens the prom queen candidates start to disappear, and their boyfriends.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is when to me, like, it was a very typical slasher movie. I think part of why I loved the original trilogy so much is that it was more than a slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
With the curse and trying to kind of piece together where this was, the whodunit part and the why and the how, like that was. But this is such a slasher, and don't get me wrong, if you're into that, I think it was kind of good. If you're into a slasher movie, it's just not my jam.
Yeah.
However, this first murder at prom is like, I can't. And I think I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because we wanted to talk about our favorite deaths in the movie, because there were a lot of creative ones.
Mm-hmm.
And this first one is definitely my favorite. Because it's the paper cutter. Like,
The paper cutter is crazy.
it's
I really have to think about whether it's even fully
possible.
100% possible.
I
Like, I don't even know. Lindsay, as our slasher expert,
Right? I need
is
you
this
to tell me.
possible?
Is it possible? Probably. I'm gonna go with probably. With enough force, and back in the 80s, maybe it was
Those things are
sharper.
made out of metal too. They were like
Right.
not plastic. They were like cast iron pieces.
And I've used one before.
Yeah.
I didn't use it to chop off anybody's hands, but um, with enough force, I'm
Well,
sure.
I know
chop off,
somebody who lost a finger to one.
yeah, well,
So
chop off a whole hand and
right at the
decapitate.
wrist. Right at the
Mhm.
wrist. Well, he wasn't decapitated with the paper cutter, was he? I can't remember.
Mm-mm. I
I
don't
thought
think
he
so.
was.
No, because okay, so he got the hand
And then he
Yeah.
tried to
and
open the door.
then the other hand, and then he tried
Mhm.
to open the door with his stubs,
Mhm.
which was
Oh, yes. Yes. For some reason, I thought he got decapitated too. No,
I
it was both hands.
was screaming, "Don't decapitate him," but they didn't. That was me.
Yeah. 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 I just like the bones in the wrist, fully going through the bones in the wrist. I don't know. I don't know. Let's test it. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Not it.
Not
I
it.
was just thinking, I know a butcher. I could probably get us some like joint bones or something and we could test it out. I feel like at the wrist it's a lot more like delicate there. So maybe I think like in the middle of a bone, maybe not. But because it was at the joint, maybe it was a little bit easier.
Yeah, like, that was great, and you would have had to really, like, bring that thing down
Mhm.
fast
My favorite
and
part was
hard.
just him trying to open the doorknob with his stops. At that point, I was laughing. I wasn't like cringing and hiding
Yeah.
behind my blanket anymore.
Well, a lot of people like, I was reading this article about, like, the most brutal kills that had happened in the movie. I was reading this article. I can't remember where it was from. Like, maybe it was, like, Screen Rant or something, and I think they said right below that was the girl, like, that was the boyfriend, that was
Mhm.
Bobby. It
Mhm.
was the girl right below that, that had died right before him, that he
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
with, Linda, where her stomach was completely cut open and she's, like, holding her guts in her
Yeah.
hand. That
Yeah.
was, like, the most brutal right along with that. I don't think that was that bad. I
I
was like,
I mean, that's a horrible
whatever."
way to die, but we didn't see the majority of that. We just saw her
Yeah.
walk out holding her gut.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's nothing."
I will say though, while the movie did have some pretty unique deaths, I don't the reactions to the death blows just weren't there. Like in
Mhm.
the Fear Street trilogy, I feel like when they were being murdered, you as the viewer almost felt it. Like they were reacting like
Yes.
they were being killed. And in this movie,
No, I was laughing.
the
Yeah.
reactions were there. Like the girl who took the axe to the shoulder, she just turns around and then falls backwards, but like there's no reaction to this wound in her shoulder. Like
Right.
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some kind of disconnect there, and I didn't like that.
No, I was invested in the Fear Street because I like the character, or the original trilogy, because I like the characters. The way they were all being killed was like because of this curse or whatever. But like also I felt like you said, like I kind of they acknowledged this death that was happening. They were, this wound, whatever. It was more serious. I felt like
Mhm.
this was really campy.
See, I like campy, and I didn't even
You didn't
feel the
even feel that?
campiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the acting or just the storytelling that's the
Right.
issue.
Mhm.
Like, I can't tell what the problem
Yeah.
is because I
Well, I
don't
just
think the
I don't
acting
even
was necessarily bad.
yeah, I just feel like there wasn't a story here. There wasn't.
Yeah.
The only story was someone's killing the prom queens. We find out
Yeah.
who and why, but it's
Mhm.
not even like a
And at this point, Crystal already had a theory going at
I
this
did.
point.
I had a theory at this point that it was Lori's mom and that she really was a murderer.
Yeah.
And that she really had killed the dad before, and then the whole town treated her like shit. And so now she was going to take her revenge and make sure her daughter became prom queen.
And
That
we
was
were
my
all
theory.
going with it. We were like, "Yeah, yeah, that's it. That that's the one."
And then
And then, so then we end up, um, Lori receives some flowers. She's, like, I don't even remember what the card said, but it was kind of shitty. And then, of course, mean girl Tiffany comes out and is being mean. And meanwhile, other mean girl, Debbie, and ponytail boyfriend are down in the basement making out, and they get axed.
Mhm.
But this is, yeah, that was kind of. So Debbie ends up electrocuting herself in the electrical panel, which makes the lights fizzle upstairs. And now Lori's best friend is kind of like, something doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
She gets I don't know, a vibe. Fuzz is making sure you're okay. He's like, I didn't like that movie either.
mhm,
Yeah, Buzz is licking Lindsay's face right now.
mhm.
So while Lori's getting these flowers, Mean Girl's being mean to her about Tiffany's being mean to her about it. The lights flicker a little bit, but then this other Wolfpack girl comes out and is like, "Hey, Tiffany, come on, you're being a little bit too mean to Lori." And like Tiffany turns on her then, and then the next thing you know, she's like, "F you," and Tiffany throws some punch at her or some sort of drink or whatever, and so she goes to the bathroom to clean herself up. And then she gets axed.
Yeah.
But this is where we find out that there's more than one killer.
There's two, which was honestly very surprising.
It did.
That was actually a nice little twist. I like that little
It was.
twist.
That was the moment I went, well, there goes my theory. Which was kind of nice because honestly, at that point, my theory really fit.
But also, I feel like they've already taken inspiration from Scream in the trilogies, and now we're going back to Scream.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, also, like, kind of going back a little bit, there was a point because as they were advertising this, series, and it's very obvious, they're taking inspiration, like you said, from other movies and very classic, like slasher films. And they do this on purpose. Like they're literally purposely advertising it as they saying like this is inspired by specific films, like even in the way that they do the posters and stuff. And even did like a Keri type poster. They had a moment in the movie that was so could have been Keri coded.
Yep.
That she's like standing up there on stage. All the mean girls are like being mean. And she could have had the whole Keri moment with the blood on her and all that stuff. And I'm like so shocked that they didn't do that. Like that was like finally okay. You could have done like another like ode to like another movie.
Yep.
Could have.
Could have. Didn't.
I was so disappointed by that.
Yep. So while all this is going on, Mean Girl Tiffany's boyfriend is kind of half flirting with Lori. Lori's flirting back because apparently she's had a crush on him since elementary school or whatever. And then they kind of run off together to a spare room of some kind. And he kind of makes this horrible, like, I thought you wanted something more kind of thing. Like, you were just dating this other girl. You broke up literally 5 minutes ago. And now you're trying to make out with Lori. And all three of us look at each other and we're like, he's about to get it. And he does.
He's a goner.
He's a goner.
Keri makes a comment.
He was a bad one.
Yeah. What did I say? I was like
something about throat punching him or something.
Like, yeah. I was like, oh, I'll throat punch you. And then the second I said that, immediately
dead.
It was great.
So of course Lori screams and she goes running. She finds her best friend who had been investigating on her own and ended up in the basement. And now they meet up together because they're both screaming and they're both realizing there's a murderer on the loose. And they get locked in the basement. And for a minute we're like, wait, maybe it is Lori's mom. And she's trying to protect them by locking them away from what's going to happen. But then there's another murderer in the basement and they have to run from that. And then they all go back out they like break out. They're being chased by, at one point they were in a room in the basement with mannequins. That is a giant nightmare for me. Like that was some Buffalo Bill, Silence of the Lambs shit right there. Like I'm out. But they climb out of the basement. They go running to prom and they're screaming. And of course, this is right when the principal is announcing the prom queen and who has won. And it turns out it was Lori Granger. And she's screaming, trying to get them to understand I'm being chased by a freaking murderer here.
And he's literally running
with an axe, just axing people's limbs off, like heads, arms, legs, and just that's the sharpest axe in the world. That was
crazy. That girl, I think her name was Claire, leg sliced off.
Yep.
And like that's when I started thinking, okay, so we might be actually connected to the trilogy here because this person is literally running through this crowd, just slicing people off. Like if you're
at this point, he's not even caring about getting caught.
Yeah, you're not even caring about getting caught, and you're just like a single-minded in the crowd, just killing people. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is a curse involved here, like we have knowledge of, because like we've said before, this is set. The curse has not been quote broken or anything yet, because this is set in between the 78, 1994, because we're in
Right.
1988. So, and the curse was broken in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it's
So
possible
we were,
that
and
that could
that's,
be happening.
and I felt like that's why it was being set in 1988, was that
Yeah.
like they were trying to make it pre-curse breaking, you
Yeah.
know? So the comes out, he's slashing people up, everybody's screaming. He goes to go after Lori's best friend. Lori stabs him in the eyeball with her tiara.
Mm-hmm.
Her plastic tiara.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And they demask him. They find out that it is one of the mean girls' daddies. And the mom is like, "Why did you do it?" And he was all like, "Because I knew it was important to you to win, for Tiffany to win." It's like,
Stupid. That was a
so
really
stupid.
stupid reveal. I'm sorry.
It
I
was
hated that reveal.
it was kind of crap. And then somehow Lori feels bad for Tiffany.
Well, the mom is like so the mom and Tiffany are in the crowd. They're shocked. They're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you've done this."
Yeah.
Like I just thought of that. I can't believe you've done this.
I can't believe it. So then like the cops are like ask the mom like, "Stay, you need to stay and answer questions and fill out forms or whatever." And they're going to send Tiffany home, you know, and Lori was like, "Well, I'll go with her so she's not alone." Even this is the mean girl who has bullied
Yeah,
her
this is the bully.
this whole time, but they live across the street from each other, and so Lori's all like, "I'll make sure she's not alone," because she feels bad because her dad turned out to be a murderer. And honestly, I kind of get that. If my dad turned out to be a murderer, I'd be broke up, and I would hope someone would be kind to me in that moment. But this is when we find out that, you know, not only is there another killer, but we kind of have some theories. And even I was like, it's her. That's the bitch. She's gonna do it.
Well, we know. Well, we're also thinking, okay, Prom Queen book.
Right.
We know that it's Simone was the killer in the
Right.
end,
The
which
one of
was
the
one of
other
the
original.
friends.
Yep.
So we're like, oh wait, it might actually be this mean girl is also involved in the entire plan as well.
Yep. But we were kind of wrong. Kind of. So the mom back at the school filling out forms or whatever with the cops is like, "Please, can I go home? My daughter is home alone. This horrible thing just happened. She needs her mother," and convinces the sheriff to take her home. So she goes home and she's climbing up the stairs with a butcher knife, dragging it across the banisters. Like, who, first of all, who does that? If you're a killer, you don't make that much noise. You just go kill them.
I feel like that's like every slasher movie though.
It
They're like
was,
walking really slow.
yep,
I'm
making
thinking
noise.
specifically Freddy Krueger when he drags his
Yeah,
claws against things.
yep.
Yeah.
It was very much a like, just, it's too dramatic. For
Yeah.
if you're gonna be a serial killer, just stop making so much
Be
noise.
quiet about it.
But
If you're
anyways,
gonna make noise though, you gotta make sure you can actually get it done
Yeah,
though.
follow
right,
through.
Mhm.
Follow
exactly.
through.
So Lori hears this. She's all like, "What's that?" She kind of wakes up. And then, of course, Tiffany, "Mommy, mommy." First of all, that was when I was like, "Oh shit, we're in real big trouble," because she said, "Mommy." What 16, 17, 18-year-old girl do you know that still calls their mother or their mom, "Mommy,
It's
mommy"?
giving creepy.
It was very creepy. So Lori stands up and she sees that Mrs. Falconer has this butcher knife, and she's like, "Run!" And she goes to hide with Tiffany in the closet. But Tiffany has this, I guess it was a shard of glass. I don't know what it was. Maybe a smaller knife.
I think it was
And
like a smaller knife or something.
That's what I
she
think.
was
Yeah.
all like, "Yeah, mommy's gonna get you."
Yeah.
Like, it
Well, she
was,
started like getting this evil look in her
yeah.
eye, and then we were like, ah!
So they chase whatever. Lori fights back, manages to kill Tiffany in a very gruesome manner. But then, like, the mom is still chasing after her, and she can't get out. She's rattling doors. Then she decides to like dig through the desk for no damn reason. I guess maybe looking for a letter opener is all I could figure. But like,
A classic.
Maybe just find a way to get out. Either way,
Trying to get out of the house. What's in the drawer to help me get out of the house?
I know. But in the end, does manage to take down Mrs. Falconer, who reveals, though, that that the reason she is so hateful towards the Grangers is that Laurie's dad was dating her when she slept with Laurie's mom, or when he slept with Laurie's mom, and she got pregnant. So, and then reveals that she's the one who killed him.
Yeah.
That's it.
But then we get a little something at the very end, like
kind
after
of
the
end credit scene.
Yes.
Cut scene, and it looks like Mrs. Falconer has bled out in some weird pattern thing that looks like it could be the witch's mark. I still can't figure out how to tie this to the curse. And so I genuinely believe, personally, that this is not a part of the curse that the original Fear Street trilogy was about. But I do think it is related to the original witch in 1666, the widow in the woods, who had the book before Solomon stole it.
I think you're giving them too much credit.
I probably am.
I'm gonna have to agree with that.
There's a part of me that's like, maybe they just threw in that end scene last minute, because there's nothing else about this movie that ties about this actual plot that ties to the curse. Nothing at all.
100%. I totally agree. I think they just threw that end scene in there just to like make you be like, well, wait a minute, and to like keep you going and wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't actually take the time to connect anything to it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I've already given away what my favorite death was. I want to hear yours. I'm excited. That was actually when Lindsey suggested we talk about that. I was like, yes, because I just
you like
were
the
some good
paper
ones.
cutter. You like the paper cutter.
The paper cutter was by far my favorite.
Yeah, Lindsey, what about you?
Yeah, the paper cutter was my favorite as well. But I think the most satisfying kill was probably, was it Tyler Torres?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
He got a
Oh
knife
yeah,
straight through the top of his cranium, like just pop.
Yeah,
because the timing was perfect.
Yep.
It was kind of it was expected, but
It
unexpected.
was such a jump scare. We all knew it was coming, but it was so like bam, fast flash. We didn't have any weird like seeing something in the background move. Nobody stopped for a second because they heard something. No, it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Keri, what about you?
I have 2. Well, actually 3, because the paper cutter one was good. I like the paper cutter one. Actually, I have 3.5.
Oh Lord.
Not a
Okay.
half.
Literally a half, because I don't think Claire actually died, but the leg slice was so crazy. I don't know if she actually died though, but her leg was clearly sliced off out of nowhere, and it was like sliced off under the knee, I think. Like, she's just standing there at prom, and the guy just, like, comes in, he's like, "Get out of my way," basically, just slices her right at the leg, which was so crazy, so I'm gonna count that as a half.
It's fair.
My other one, I think his name is Judd, or yeah, where I think that was, like, the most gruesome one, where his girl was the one that was electrocuted.
Yeah.
But he
Judd's
got
ponytail guy.
Yeah, the ponytail guy, face cut with a saw blade.
That was
Yeah.
good.
Wild. That
Mhm.
was really, really
That was pretty wild.
And I'm gonna have to say my favorite is the mean girl falling off
Falling off the top of the stairs.
Yeah. And just being impaled at the bottom. I mean, every single time that happens in the movie, it's like, it's a classic for me. I love it. I love it. Where they're just like at the bottom and they're just like with their arms just like laying there like done. I don't know why. It's just freaking it's just funny.
It is. I will say, like, him running through the crowd at the end with the axe, like, that seriously had to have been the sharpest axe in the world because he was just one swing, clean cutting, heads off, legs off, the principal's arm off, like just clean with one swing, a clean cut. Like,
I know.
If I had to hear that man say wowzers one more time.
yeah, honestly, I was glad to see that go.
Yeah. And,
Wowzer.
like, they were, like, trying to do, like, these one-liners and things like
It
that.
just,
It was just, like, not hitting.
yeah,
It just
no,
wasn't funny.
it really wasn't, and that's like the visuals and vibes of this movie. Do you guys have any particular ones that like you thought did hit that were right, or any that stood out as just like completely freaking wrong? Honestly, the principal saying wowzers nonstop definitely was like a wrong for me. Like, I went to school in the 80s. I don't ever remember anyone saying wowzers ever.
Yeah.
I saw it on Scooby Doo reruns. Wait,
Not Scooby-Doo.
I know. Like, grown-ups didn't say that. Velma said that. She said jinkies and wowzers.
Like, I can't think of anything in particular that I really loved about it, to be honest. Like,
I,
I think
some of the music was
I did enjoy.
I
Like, we
think
were singing along to it, and it was
the
fun.
Mhm.
prom in the gym, that was very classic 80s 90s, you
It's true.
know.
No, we had proms in the gym
Yeah,
when
and
I
but
was
like
in
even like I
school.
feel like the decorations being kind of almost non-existent, pretty typical. It wasn't,
Mhm.
but yeah, I hated the dresses were not 80s
Where's the
dresses. The
hairspray?
hair
Why
just
aren't we drowning in hairspray?
of the whole movie, we see one scene where one girl is hairspraying her hair in the bathroom. Just
Mhm.
one out of the whole movie. And her hair wasn't even that big. None of these had the big feathered bangs. None of these had the big puffy hair.
Nothing was teased.
Nothing.
Mhm.
Nothing. Not a teasing comb in sight.
Yeah.
It was
I just
depressing.
I just feel like that was so crazy.
It just how I mean, the only thing that I can think of is that like maybe the hair and makeup of the movie didn't want to like damage anyone's hair, but like there's wigs. Get a wig,
Yeah.
you know.
For real.
It it was not the 80s.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything that you are hoping for because I have faith that there will be another Fear Street movie or hopefully a couple more Fear Street movies that will be as good, or at least close to the originals.
Oh, well, I think R.L. Stine did tell Hollywood Reporter that there, I think, is supposed to be 3 more,
Mhm.
at least
That's what
guaranteed.
I read. But is there anything in particular that you'd like to see?
I would really love to see more. I want backstories, either backstories of the characters that we already know, like
Mhm.
the slashers that we already know. I want more connections. I know we keep repeating that a ton of times, but
But
that's
it's
just like
true.
it's so good. But I do have 2 particular books that I've seen the synopsis of, I think would be really interesting that could connect
Mhm.
to as like a good like for like the trilogy. I
Mhm.
think one is called The Perfect Date. I actually own that one. I really want to read it. And it's like guy has a girlfriend who was killed and then meets a new girl, but then starts to be followed by like a weird entity and like bad stuff keeps happening to him.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I think that could probably be like something that could connect. There's also Switched, but that's also in the Fear Street series where it's like a body swap story where
Okay.
there's like a cabin in the woods and something happens that causes these 2 people their bodies are switched or like their souls are switched in their bodies and one of them is using like their body to get away with murder. So
Okay.
I think those 2 would be really cool
Okay.
to
Sounds
be
like
made into
Face
movies.
Off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lindsay, what do you want to see?
I'm like Keri. I'd like to see some backstory on the killers from the trilogy, but also I think a really good adaptation that they could do would be The Sleepwalker. which is about a girl who starts sleepwalking after a traumatic accident and people around her start dying.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got like an unreliable narrator, and then you have like dreamlike horror. But I think they could also possibly tie in Ruby Lane and her lullabies.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Ooh, I
Mhm.
like that.
That would be really
Or
cool.
they could do the prom date, which is about a cursed corsage that starts killing off anyone who wears it.
Oh,
So they could
Oh,
kind of tie it into Prom Queen and maybe do better next time.
right.
maybe try again.
I think I'm really hoping for a little bit more about the original woman with the book, that widow in the woods, that
Yeah.
apparently everybody went to for like folk remedies and stuff, but wasn't allowed to live in the village. Like she had that original book that Solomon stole. And when we see it at the very end of the trilogy, when the book is still there in the cave, but somebody comes and takes it. And I would love to know more about like where that book came from, who was the original witch in the woods, and especially like we see that witch's mark pop up at the end of Prom Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Does that tie in anywhere? Is there another witch in the area? Because even the witch in the woods, she had not, although she had this book and she had, whatever power or spell she had at the time, even she had not messed with Satan in the way that Solomon did. So are
Hmm.
there other somewhat responsible witches in the area still? I think
Yeah,
that could be a really interesting storyline, and then tying in a whole bunch of the other R.L. Stine Fear Street books with those other witches, I think could be possible. It'd be a lot of fun.
I like that idea. I love a witchy story.
Me too. Me too. I want to talk about, though, we did our slasher superlatives on our Instagram story last week. That was last week, wasn't it? I feel like so
Hmm.
much time since we got to meet and visit. We've had a big week. This last
Oh yeah.
10 days has just been wild. But we did our slasher superlatives where we asked you, our amazing followers, to vote for who you think would be most likely to. And some of these answers were a little expected. Some of them were a little disappointing, and others were just downright hilarious. So, without further ado, Keri, would you let us know each one of our categories and our winners or losers or just dead?
Yeah. So we do post these on our Instagram based on a book podcast. So we posted on our stories and we just asked a bunch of questions and had polls up voting for who's most likely to slasher edition for Fear Street. So the first one was who is most likely to survive the slasher? 0% for Keri. Crystal was 36%, and our winner for most likely to survive the slasher, 64% was Lindsey.
Yay, Lindsay.
Yay.
No one is shocked.
No one
No
is
one is
shocked.
surprised.
No.
Our next one was who is most likely to investigate a strange noise alone? This one was actually kind of close and it kept going back and forth. 21% said Lindsey, 36% said Keri, but the winner was 43% with Crystal. It's most likely to investigate a strange noise alone by
I'm,
herself.
I have been known to do that in the past.
So it checks out. It checks
So,
out. Honestly, it made me laugh that people said that I would investigate a strange noise alone because I would totally. Can you guys see me
no,
doing that?
no. You would
I'd
be
be like,
like, Crystal, go
no.
look, go figure out what that is.
I'd be like, I ain't doing that. I ain't going over there.
Mm-mm.
Next one was who is most likely to be the killer twist ending? This was pretty much a tie, actually, at the very end between me and Crystal. We were each at 40%
Which I
with
think is
votes.
hilarious because I think of the three of us, the only one who would get away with it would be Lindsay.
I know. She was only at 20%.
I'm too klutzy. I'm too loud. Carrie's probably like, no, I'm not getting my hands dirty.
No. Well, I'm like literally, I can't hide anything. Like, I cannot hide anything. I will be telling you like, I tell on myself all the time. Like, my family says that all the time. I'm someone who tells on myself. So if I like do something bad, I'm immediately like, you guys, I did something. So definitely not me. Who's most likely to trip while running away? Only 7% said Lindsay, 29% Crystal, and 64% said me. My friend Sierra said, definitely Keri, she's got 2 left feet. So
What's
that's
really
true.
funny is if I run at all, I will fall. And all my friends know it. So that tiny, whatever, the 29% you said, those are like the 5 friends that I know voted for me. Yeah. A couple of them even messaged me. They're like, girl, the way you twist your ankles.
Yeah. So who is most likely to say, I'll be right back and not make it? Lindsay and Crystal both had 23%, but I won with 54%. You notice the trend here of me not making out of this slasher movie alive. Okay, that is the trend. Continuing on this trend, who's most likely to hide in the worst possible spot? Crystal, 8%. Lindsay, nobody voted for Lindsay because they know Lindsay has got this. 92% said I would hide in the worst possible spot.
That's just because of your episode on Good Girls Guide when you talked about hiding in the closet.
Yeah, probably.
You did give yourself away.
Who's most likely to befriend the creepy local who knows everything? Me and Lindsay were both at 14%, but Crystal won with 71%.
I am the creepy local that knows
so
everything.
you can understand the creepy local.
Yep.
So you would totally befriend a creepy local.
Yep.
Immediately, I knew that is totally you. Who is most likely to keep filming during the chaos? Lindsay was at 21%, Crystal 36%, and then it was at me 43%. I mean, during chaos of like, we're all gonna die? No. But I have been known to film during friends doing chaotic things, and I'm just like, yeah! Like, Keri, put the phone down, your friends need help.
Nah.
So, that kind of checks out. Who's most likely to be the final girl? We all know who it is. It's not Keri with 0%. It's definitely not a single person. Not one person thought I could ever be the final girl. Crystal was at 29%, but Lindsay is most likely to be the final girl with 71%.
Yay, Lindsay.
Woo!
Me and Keri just tripping. Literally.
Yeah. But don't forget to check out our polls today when this episode comes out, because we will be doing Prom Queen themed polls for Fear Street, which should be really fun.
Cannot wait to see what y'all think of us. Or maybe I can.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
Well, folks, that about wraps it up. But seriously, go check out our Instagram. See what fun Keri's posted up there. It's a little wild, and we always have something fun going on. We also have Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, YouTube, and you can find our podcast, well, wherever you found it. We are so excited to talk to you about any and everything, whether you love us, you hate us, you loved the book, you hated the book, or you have an idea for us to cover later. You can always click the link in our show notes for any adaptation suggestions for us to cover. And that about does it, folks. So, in closing, don't investigate strange noises alone. Don't go into the basement, and don't trust anyone. See you on the next chapter of Based on a Book. Bye.
Bye.